presentation side. These are the key points to be discussed in today's session. That is the key objectives of developing a research paper. Then the three phases the work can be divided. That is the pre-development work, development of the paper, and the post-development work, which is further to be followed by a small brief description related to plagiarism, citation, referencing, the formatting of the paper, and selection of the journals, and followed by the referencing. So let me just take a small quiz, and you answer it for yourself. And this is the quiz over here. As per you, what is the research paper? Is it a science? Is it an art? Or is it both? I can take a randomly one or two answers from the participants. You can unmute and you can just try to answer it. One or two participants only.
Both.
Yeah, ma'am. Anyone else, please? Same view? Yes, quite obvious. We can say that research paper writing is not only a science or an art, but it is a combination of both, because the scientifically way how you define becomes a part of the research paper. The steps, the tools, the techniques which we need to avoid and to include in the work makes it a science. And presenting becomes an art. What will be the flow, how you are going to align the paragraphs, how many paragraphs should be there, the use of the language, grammatical contents, plagiarism, and many of the things are involved in it. So finally we can say that research paper writing is not only a science, but it is an art too. If again I ask that why you want to publish a research paper, there may be the many type of answers, but most importantly, being an academician, it becomes a necessity for us to get a research paper published, because it is the mandatory requirement for the career advancement. Particularly when you are been in a scale, it has been normally requested that at least two research papers must be published during a period. And publication does not mean nowadays just like simply getting the paper published here or there, or simply a peer reviewed journal. The UGC expect that we should get a paper published at least in the UGC CARE journal, or otherwise it may be reputed journals which are being listed in the Scopus Web of Science, or maybe like that. So number one, that is it is an academic necessity. We want to get the research paper published. And second is the career advancement, because if you want to grow in our academic field, if you want to get the increments in that cases or the promotions, the research paper is mandatory norm. Maybe for the rest of the people, just particularly in terms of corporate sector, they get the research paper published due to their personal interest. Nowadays, it becomes a fancy. Many of the corporate people are interested to pursue the doctorate degree. Whenever having an interaction with them, they say that like it is we feel prestigious to use the word doctor, doctorate or DR in front as a prefix to our name. So whatsoever may be the reason, but it is a personal interest. Presently, two of my scholars who are enjoying their retired age, and they are registered to the university as a scholar. So they are 60 plus and still they want to pursue the PhD. And the same question I asked to them. So they said that whatever the knowledge we have gained during our lifestyle, we want that this content should be published so that the people may be aware. And I requested that if it is a better work, we can just proceed for the patent, and we can, so it may be a source of fundings to not only himself or herself. And even if that person, just like a faculty, is been engaged in the university or any of the affiliated institutes, they can get a better opportunity in the form of research fundings. These fundings are being provided by the government agencies, UGC, AICT, many of the affiliating organizations, and even from the private sector. So if we take the example of the IIMs and IITians, so they majorly focus upon the actual research and used to get the amount of funds from the corporate sectors. So it is a source of fundings to the author or the institute. Nextly, it may helps to make a comparison between our own work with the others, so that it may be helpful in interpreting that we are we on the right track, or do we have somewhat different opinion, and how this opinion, once it has been published, so we can have interaction that how this opinion is been adopted by the society or the academic world. So in order to compare your own work with the others, it will be very, very helpful. Just like suppose if you have published one research paper related to finance in mutual fund, so whatsoever is your own data or your own results, it can be compared like what others thinks upon. Then feedback on the validity of the research approach. It can be a research publication, can be the good source to the validity of your data and your work. If it has been accepted by the academic community or the publishing communities, you will be satisfied. It is going to improve your credit score, just like H index or maybe I index, and it improves your creditability in the community. Next is knowledge building to other researchers in their own work. Whatsoever your work has been published provides a platform to the others, means it provides a base to the others to so that they can also better think upon, and they can continue where you have left behind. Because it is not practically possible to include each and every element in a research paper or even in a thesis work. So at the last part of the publication, we always indicate that scope for the further research. So this is that may be the end for your work, but that will be the beginning to the others. Then definitely recognition in the academic community. Once you get your research paper published in a standard or a reputed journal, it automatically creates a good rapport amongst the academic community and helpful in public understanding of a research question. I will just like to talk upon in two ways. Number one, that like what the people think upon, what are the social problems exist on which you work, you get your outcomes and get it published. This will be the one objective. And secondly, it provides a base to understand related with the problems related to the society, so that you can find out the solutions to such type of problems, that is the realistic problems. Just for an example, if we assume there is a traffic jam problem at a one particular square, so there may be the n number of solutions. The government representatives, the government engineers, they always keeps on spending months and months to get the solution, but they may not get the solution. So just by your publication, by your idea generations, you can provide a solution to them. Publishing helps establish you as an expert in the field of knowledge. So you are expected, you are the expert in your domain. It has been expected like that. So once you are expert in your domain, you can circulate your ideas, your expertise to into the particular field. So these are the pre-objectives for getting the research paper published. It all depends upon the perception of the person. Getting the research paper published can be divided into, or getting the research paper ready, it can be divided into three broad elements. Number one is the pre-review, that is the requirements before planning for developing the paper. Second stage is developing the paper, post review work, and finally submitting it for the publication. So we can say that if you want to enhance our knowledge, so the building knowledge or enhancing the knowledge can be made with the help of the research. Now some of the points to be memorized, that how we can create or build the knowledge through research. The very first question comes to our mind, and that is where to begin. Because it has always been said that well begin is the half start. So that is the biggest point to be discussed. I will discuss in the next slide. Then choosing the proposal team. Correct team is equally important because it's a teamwork. Nowadays, the concept of Ekla Chalore is almost vanished, because when you go with a quality work, quality paper development, in that case, it is advisable that you work with a team so that you can get the maximum inputs and better results. Then Recommended reading whatsoever you have been developed, you must go through that. And even if you are unable to get, you can just get it checked with some the experts related to maybe the English language or regional language, or related to their statistical tools and techniques you have adopted. It is helpful in developing the program design, how you want to proceed with that. Then further it includes that writing the front matter and the executive summary. Particularly when we talk about the executive summary, it becomes very popular in terms of thesis writing. But in terms of research paper, the abstract writing is to be considered sufficient enough. Then, if you want to propose, you are wanting proceeding towards the grants. In that case, your proposal is very, very important. So, a quality proposal becomes a part of your research work, and the acceptance or the rejections depend upon your proposal. That is a research paper. Then it is helpful in indexing, just I talk upon. It improves the author's credential in the market. Once you get your papers, your H index, I index, G index, etc., improves a lot, which creates your value in the academic community. So these are the objectives we can say, that how the research paper publication helps us. Now, the big question arises, that is where to begin. So we can say that we can start thinking about developing a research paper, that means the generation of the idea. The question, again, the biggest question comes upon that we do not get the idea when, where, and how this idea can be generated. So, as such, there is no limitation related to the generation of the idea. It can be anywhere, any place, anytime. The idea can be even generated when you are in the deep sleep. So that is not a big issue. But when you are in the deep sleep, when in the morning, if you are uh, in a position to memorize that what you thought, you can just rethink, and if it is suitable, then you can proceed further. So the generation of the idea is very, very important. Now, continuing with the same point, what factors we must consider while generating the idea? So there are the two ways you can focus upon. You just think that for whom you want to develop a research paper. Initially, as it is an academic requirement, normally we focus being being an author, we try to think upon for ourselves. That means the writer orientation. We want to develop a research paper in such a manner so that it will be helpful to the or to us, or getting the solution to the questions which we are in our mind. Second is the reader orientation. Now, what is your audience, to whom you are focusing upon? In both the ways, the use of language is little bit different. Once you focus upon the readers, that what actually the society expect from you, what exactly the academic community expect from you, becomes a part of the reader orientation. So just generating of the idea, this will be your first step, that for whom you want to develop the paper. And tell me, it's not and so easy to generate the idea or the title of the paper. And don't worry, whatever the idea you generate, just note it down. It might be changed number of times. Don't worry about it. So, proceeding with generation of the new idea, the very first step we can follow, and that is the keeping track of your ideas. There may be hundreds of ideas may come to your mind in a short span of time. Not possible to memorize each and every idea. So it's very better that whenever you get an idea, or you got an idea, it's better you note it down somewhere, wherever it has been possible. We are very used to the mobile, so various apps are available. You can simply put that idea over here, jot it down. You can just write that idea and WhatsApp yourself. So it will be available whenever you go with a deep thinking. So there are various tools available, just like Evernote, Noteskeep, template like the Yellow Project, status reports, etc., from where you can generate the idea and may note it down. The next step for the generation of the idea may be related to the world around you. So once you are looking for the real life problems, it's better you just go through and check out what our society needs upon. There may be the problem related with the child education. Our institute works in a rural area, typical rural area. We having a continuous interaction. We used to go to the rural places. They are very, very remote rural villages. And the overall conclusions whenever we meet it to the school, government schools, particularly in the rural sector, the basic problem comes upon that girls wish to study, but their parents normally after 8th standard or to the maximum 10th standard, they withdraw the girl from the school and their focus is only upon the marriage of the girl. Girls do not want to get married. They are helpless. They want to continue their studies, but again, they are helpless. So there is a huge dropout ratio in the girl education. When we talk about the boys' education, they somehow manage to finish off with their 12th standard, but due to their family conditions, usually they drop their education and get engaged in some type of laborious work. So it just creates an idea that we should try to focus upon the real life problem. What is the reason behind it? Is it the social factor, or what about the government incentives, or due to the lack of the motivation? Everything matters, and this can be the one of the idea related to developing a research paper. Second idea I just can suggest to you. Presently, there is a many of the SHG self-help groups are operating in the rural areas. Basically, they are the women from that village, normally with a 5 7 to maybe few hundreds. They get together. It's just like they are collecting some amount from their savings, and I should say it's a forced saving, and then they can just grant a loan, interest free loan to that group, so it is helpful towards the development. So it can be again a point, just like how the SHG is operating. And if not so, being the part of the academic community, how we can promote this activity in the rural sector, so you can have the better result. Now, whatever the research you conduct, you can submit this research to the government, including the local government and all the associated organizations, maybe the Gram Panchayat and so. So there can be a better lifestyle to for those such type of women. Then generating, just think somewhat behind about it. It may be a foolish way to thought upon. Doesn't matter unless and until you think foolishly, you can't develop something new. You can't invent something new. So some outstanding thought may be there. Might be possible that it may be become a realistic in the near future. Might be possible you may get something new from that thought. Then don't afraid about the success and failure. Whatever the idea may generated may be feasible, but may not be feasible as per our limitations. There may be many restrictions. I have a beautiful thought to develop something, but I am not a person from the science background, so it may be difficult for me to just think upon how to should I proceed. So it's better I can provide this idea to some another person, another academician, so that they may go move ahead. Or if not so, we will think something different, which in the domain where which we can work. Now, another thing that you should always communicate with your peer groups, your friends, your relatives, so that unless and until you share your thoughts and ideas, you will not get any improvement or the betterment over there. So try to make connections. Even in the academic community, we are largely, there are many types of groups are available on LinkedIn, maybe Instagram, maybe Google and all these things. So be the part of that academic community, so you can definitely get the good ideas from there. Then after those things, just try to make decisions, try to finalize the things, and finish when you started. You start with a scratch, you can just complete the loop and finish it of what and that loop, and just think it upon that it thus this idea is effective for you to be and for the further development of the research paper. And finally, we can say that you should be capable enough to express yourself. Start expressing first of all to with yourself, and then you can proceed for the next step. So this is the extension to the previous slide. When we talk about the idea generations, in the words of the Peter Elbow says that the consequences of writing is that you must start by writing the wrong meanings in the wrong words, but keep writing. So it is very correctly said that don't think upon the language you are using, don't think about the grammar. This all things can be corrected laterly. It's the time just to think upon, because the ideas may come, many ideas may come continuously, and they may be move out from your mind. So that doesn't matter how whatsoever idea gets, you simply note it down, and there it can be analyzed. So there may be the wrong meanings, wrong words, but keep writing until you get the right meaning in the right words. Only in the end will you know what you are saying. Ultimately, you will get what exactly you want to conduct or do. Now, regarding idea generations, there are the four types of methods are being recommended. And the first one is the brainstorming. That is the thinking about ourselves. Just keep on thinking, okay, what we can do, how we can do. And this all brain mapping and storming can be done with your mind. Second is free writing. Write anything. Don't think upon. Write foolishly. Doesn't matter. Write idiotically. Doesn't matter. But keep on writing. In that content, you will get few points, few ideas later on through which you can develop a paper. Even you can create an idea map. An image you can see towards right hand side of your screen. This is the idea map. This is the basic thought the author is planning upon, and further they are. This is just like a decision tree approach, and further is thoughts they are putting in the form of various rooms. So there again there may be the subdivision of the point and so on. So here it will, why the decision tree, you can have few branches with different ideas and the outcomes. Maybe this may be the pros and cons, like that also it can be worked upon. So with the help of an idea map, finally you can get into the conclusion and you can have a decision over it. Next is modeling. Modeling, we can say that it is something just like sitting ideally and thinking just without any thoughts, without any outcomes, without any conclusions. It's the way like this is to be known as the modeling. In simple word, I can say that it is just like a idiotic thinking. It comes under the category of the modeling. So it can be also the one of the step where you can involve your subconscious brain, and it includes the combination of all the 3 points. It includes brainstorming, free writing, and idea map. So with the help of modeling also, you can develop a or you can generate an idea. The next step, once the idea has been generated, I think we have achieved the 50% of our target with getting the correct topic for our work. And once it comes for your dissertation work or thesis writing, it becomes a very difficult task. So this idea has been expected when you have generated the idea and you have at least you are having some topic in your mind. The next steps comes is again choosing the proposal team. Again, unless and until it is required to develop the paper, because if you want to credit of the whole of API, in that case you can develop a single you can develop a paper as a single author or the sole author. But otherwise you can have the 2 to 3 authors which has been recommended while developing a paper. So there is a need of a proposal team. There is a need of a team, and the team can be proposed on the basis of the certain criterias. So being the first author, it depends upon you which type of people you want to include. Just like be one an expert that needs to be known as a principal investigator. Now this investigator is subject to be an expert in that area. It is going to help control and guide to the subordinates how you should proceed with that. There may be the need of the research assistant, just like it is like a lab assistant in the lab, scientific lab. Similarly, if you are busy in many of the work, you can just share your ideas, your contents to your assistant, just like it may be your scholar, it may be your subordinate, it may be the students who are and want to get career in their research. They may be your assistant, and you can transfer your thoughts and ideas to them, and they can work upon. Then research associate, how many people you want to associate with yourself. So they as a team, they all will work together, and there should be overall one research director. Ultimately, a principal investigator and research director may be one or may not be. Research director is like a director who controls the whole of the people and the content and the flow. The objectivity is to get all the work done on time. And the role of the principal investigator is to just check upon that where you are moving, are you in the right direction? If some deviation occurs, so he or she will help you, support you to get you on the right track. So a team should be or must be capable enough, which may have a frequency to your mind, to yourself, so that in terms of coordination, they all can work together. Now, you are ready with your team. To the third step is, I mean, identifying the resources. And whenever we talk about the resources, the very first thing comes to our mind, and that is the internet. In case if there is a power break, just please be patient. I will just shift in that case to the hotspot. So there are the many sources available, but before just moving to the web or the internet, I suggest that you should try to go through the books available, the journals, the magazines available in your library or your nearby resource areas. Because the printed material provides you the authenticated source, and it is a better source for referencing. So just start hunting with the books. It will provide you the ideas, it will provide you the terminologies, definitions, and all these things. So don't forget to give the proper referencing and citations to them. So what we need to do, we need to identify the library where we can get those things. Secondly, in this case, if you are unable to get this access to your library, just try to reach the university library or any other big data source available where you can have a membership and you can get the data just identified. Identifying the required books, the general articles where you can get the many of the information. Journals are also a good source of information. It can provide you the better thought to your topic, and even it may provide you the base towards the identifying the topic for your work. Then finding thesis and dissertation. The thesis can be accessed which is available in your library, even the dissertation work. If not so, if available, then you can proceed towards the Shodhganga, which is the UGC approved site, which is a part of the UGC, and you can hunt with the various topics available and the soft thesis available in the soft copy, which are published in India in the previous many years. So they are in the digital form. It's free access. It's a free source of generation of the content. So you, by accessing, you can get the many things. Even this type of thesis will help you in deciding the flow of your work. After that, moving back to electronic material, just like the web is the ocean of information. Just keep hunting. You will get maybe many information related to your work. Besides that, it is equally important that what are the legal formalities and informations available. Many journals or the papers, the authors does not allow you to download the copy without approval or paying the fees for it. And if you somehow do it, that comes under the part of the illegal work. Comes into the category of plagiarism. So just go through the legal content, legal information. Otherwise, if it is very important, you pay for it and purchase that paper. Evaluating your information, just check it out, the sources of information is authenticated or not. Then once you have many sources of information available, it is equally important that how you will manage these resources. To my thesis work, I had downloaded more than 300 research papers. And if I would have kept all this paper, or if you would have kept all this research paper in a single folder, it would be very, very difficult to just identify the topic, the content as per your requirement. So there can be subfolders as per your requirement. How it can be? Just like it may be on the basis of the objectives, sub objectives. Further, it may be subdivided on the basis of the hypothesis. It may be on the basis of the global studies and national studies, international and national studies. It can be this can be the criteria. If you have elaborated topic, then on the you can bifurcate your topic, and accordingly also you can just keep the references, means the papers you have downloaded over there. So it all need to be decided by yourself. Being an expert, assumed to be an expert in this area, you will decide that how we will manage those contents. Keeping up to date with your research. Don't be like that ki once you started typing a paper and just forget about next 3 months. No, keep writing something, keep reading something, so that your continuity must not be dropped. And finally, two things comes upon, that is the plagiarism and the citing of the resources. So you must need to provide the credit from where you are involving these contents. So these are the prerequisites required for before preparing for writing a research paper. Now, once you are ready with all this information, start writing the paper. For developing content, you can design your flow chart as per your choice. In the next slide, we'll go with the standard procedures, and including, if possible, you can write the front matter or the executive summary. But usually what we used to do, this summary we used to prepare after completing off with our work. So it doesn't matter, it depends upon your choice. Just like you can also have a conceptual framework. Conceptual framework provides you an idea what will be the flow of your work. So this is a standard procedure or the structure of writing a research paper. More or less the same methodology is been adopted for developing your dissertation. So we always start with the title. Now memorize it that each and every element is having their own importance, their own way of writing it down. It is just not like an writing an essay. It's a totally a different. Here the lots of expertise is been required. I'm being at the review of one or two international publications on the gradual phases. I used to review papers. I used to get the papers from by blind review, and the columns what they have provided us to report the feedback, they are very, very technical. Definitely, they start with the point just like the title is appropriate to the work you have been read in that paper. So if the title does not match with the work, the content, the work may be rejected. There is a style. What will be the font size? What should be? It should be italic, bold, etc. We will discuss in the later slides. Then abstract. This is the second step is involved in developing a research paper. It will be followed by writing the introduction. Again, flow, length, paragraphs, all these things. Literature review is the important element in such a way that it provides you an idea about the other authors they have done on the particular topic. So it provides basically a base of weightage to your work. So RFI used to conduct the various independent sessions upon all of these topics. So you can join later whenever this type of events are been there. So writing a literature review, and after that in the same point, we used to identify the available literature gap you have studied. You have gone through only 20 papers and you will find some gap over there which may practically may not exist. So what we used to declare, we used to say that as per the available literature review studied, we have identified this gap which provides us a base to develop the research paper on this particular topic. Rational justification for your work. Why you want to proceed on this particular work. Then objectives and hypothesis. Hypothesis publication writing is not mandatory, but usually in terms of the primary data analysis, hypotheses are being adopted. In case in just like the descriptive paper, the hypothesis may not be required. So it is not necessarily required that for each and every paper, hypothesis must be there. It may be, it may not be. If it is on primary database, it should be. If it is, you feel that hypothesis provides a weightage to your work, you can include it. Objectives, just again remember, is don't put many of the objectives. I gone through one of the thesis long back, and there were more than 15 objectives. I said to that person, like in this life, you can't finish off with these 15 objectives. So it should be very limited. There may be sub objectives, there may be sub objectives, but just keep limitation to the objectives. Usually 2 to 3 objectives are more than sufficient. If you wish, you can have little bit more. Methodology is again the crucial part, because here it creates the interest of the readers or evaluator. They may not be so much interested about all from introduction to objectives. Hardly they will go with this point, and they will focus which type of methodology you have adopted. Then it will be finding out with your results and findings and discussions. So findings, results can be clubbed together to be followed by discussion. Discussion means what you have in the outcome and what the other authors you have studied in the literature review. So you will just try to match or contrast the decisions with the other authors. Thereafter, you will put your suggestions, scope for further research, that is the research gap lacuna has been there in your work, to be followed by conclusions and the references. So this is the standard research paper or the thesis writing procedure. This is nothing new in it. Now, title page. What factors we must focus upon? You can, the title must be informative and catchy. It should be attractive enough. It should be so good so that it may create the interest of the reader. Okay, that let's move upon. It's just like a title of the movie. Okay. So once the title of the movie indicates that something must be creative, very creative like. Title should be in capital letters. Do not put quotation marks before and after the title. Even your thesis work, please take care about it. Do not underline the title or put a period at the end of the title. Ascertain the proper names of the authors and affiliations, which can be shown after the title or maybe at the end of the abstract. Now, this thing has been suggested and recommended by the journal where you want to get your paper published. The same rules are applied to the headings and subheadings as well. So you can just go through the title: an empirical study on the women empowerment through self-help groups. Special reference to Ujjain districts of Madhya Pradesh. Madhya Pradesh should be capitalized over here. It's error from my side. This is the author. We are having a single author, and after abstract we are providing the affiliation of the author. Fine. So what this indicates, there may be more than one author. There may be 2 asterisks, second author, 3 asterisks for 3 authors, and so on. The affiliation may be just directly below the author's name, or it will be after the author's name. Once your paper goes for the double-blind peer review, in that case, they will remove this author information from this page, and then it will be sent for the review. So this is how you can define the title page. The next part comes upon, that is writing an abstract. What is abstract? Abstract is simply the summarizing the whole of your work into few lines, few sentences, so that it provides the complete information about your work. Abstract is usually used in writing of research paper, and summary comes under the category of the thesis writing. Abstract is written in the initial part as an initial part of the research paper. Summary comes when you finish off with your work. So first couple of sentences should focus on what study is you want to include in your work. It includes major findings in a style that is a general readership can read and understand. Language should be very, very simple. Avoid experimental procedures and data. It should not be included in abstract because you have a separate chapter for it to describe the whole of your work. That is in methodology. Keep the abstract short and effective. Now, various publishers have their difference of opinion. Just like as per my recommendations, to 200 to 250 words abstract is good enough. Just again taken from one of the source. This is the abstract should be from 100 to 500 words. Like few styles, if you go through, AP American Psychological Association indicates that abstract should be between 150 to 250 words. Actually, I used to follow the APA style. That's why I have included this length. For MLA, they recommend 150 to 250 words. Harvard writing style indicates 100 to 300 words. And AMA length is been restricted to 175 words. So whatsoever style you adopt for developing your work, follow their guidelines, their procedures, it will be much better. Or finally, the publishers, the publication through you are submitting the paper. Secondly, the title abstract should be in capital and underline. The whole of the abstract will be in italics unless and until it has been specified by the publisher. So it must be in italics, and abstract must always followed with the keywords. Keywords are the important words which helps the software, nowadays AI, to identify your work so that it may provide just someone who search for it, it may provide a base to just go through your paper. It is just like hashtag you are using in Instagram. So 4 to 5 keywords are important enough. They are most importantly used in your work, must be included here. In this present abstract, you can see it is of 178 words. Not required to be submitted. It's only for the information purpose. So this abstract is basically divided into 3 parts. Can you see my next slide? Abstract writing. Anyone please respond?
Yes, Professor.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So when we are talking about the abstract writing, it's will be in the 3 parts. The first part includes the basic information about your work. Second part talks little bit about the methodology you have adopted, and the third part moves with the findings of your work. Don't go ahead with the technical words. You can use citations if required. You can avoid. It is not necessarily required, but from introduction, it is required. So in terms of abstract writing, you create the first draft. Don't worry about the title. Don't worry about the abstract. It may be modified hundreds of times when you proceed with your work. You have an X title in your mind. You started writing with an abstract. Once you start developing the paper, some new thoughts may come in which your title need to be modified. So you can do it. Unless and until your title is been registered. Just like in terms of the PhD, if your title is been approved by the RDC, after that you cannot modify the title. Even if there is any grammatical mistake, you need to carry over with that. So in terms of research paper writing, it's okay, but otherwise it is not possible to modify. So create the draft, extract the objectives from the paper's introduction and conclusion from the discussion. These are some of the points I'm just reading. I have already discussed it. Highlight the methodology, bracket the findings and outcomes in the result section, combine all into a single paragraph, provide research keywords, delete extra words which are irrelevant to your work. So these things I have already discussed in the previous slide. These are the creating first draft. Don'ts of writing an abstract. Avoid writing information that is not in the original paper. Do not include anything which is not in your paper. Do not use abbreviations until a term appears 2 or more times. Skip background information, detailed methodology and the literature review. Omit bibliography, citation, references, graphs, labels, etc. in abstract writing. Revision and editing. After that, check all the grammatical and language flow and modify if required. So it should be very, very simple. Once you finish off with your abstract, or it may be modified, don't need to worry. The next part comes and that is the introduction. Usually in terms of thesis writing, the introduction contains 30-40 pages. It all depends upon the guide's expertness. Few guide may say that introduction should be too less and your methodology and the result should be much, much more. So it depends. But what does introduction must include? So it must provide the description about the topic, the statement as to why the topic is all about. It should be worth researching or why it could be. It should be found interesting. Scope of study must be there. There should be an overview of the rest of the paper. So at the end of the introduction, you will provide the flow, chapterization, how you have proceeded in your work. Number of pages 1 and 2 for research paper. So introduction should not be very lengthy. Hardly 1-2 pages in research paper writing. It may be few pages in the thesis writing. If required, you can extensively use the chart, graphs, flow charts, diagram, etc. But don't forget to properly cite those sources or those charts and graphs, because that is not your own work. As per the study of 61,500 research papers uploaded to PubMed Central between 2000 to 16 to 21, the median of the introduction was 553 words. So the source, there is a source database which says that an average introduction part in the research paper is of 553 words. It is equivalent to 21 sentences or the 4 paragraphs, and 90% of the introductions were between 245 to 1245 words. So this is a study published by some of the publishers. So what does this indicates? That in research paper writing, the median of the abstract is 553 words, and it is somewhere between 245 to 1245 words. So more or less about 1500 words are enough to write the introduction. We started with the title, then abstract writing, then introduction. The next step is writing a literature review. What is literature review? It is a critical analysis of the published resources or the sources which are been published by some another authors as an expert to their topic. The objective of the literature review writing is to determine or to collect and present the thoughts of the other researchers to provide a justification to your work. I repeat, it is the collection of the information by the other reviews to just provide the justification to your work. So literature review can be debating by nature. It may be contradicted to your work, but after that you will proceed in the rest of the chapters to justify what you think upon. It is an assessment of the literature and provides a summary, classification, comparisons, and the evaluation. So it is a fundamental base without which you cannot write or proceed with the work. Why review is required? Literature review. To identify the work done on the similar topic, to get into the insights to the proposed research work, to enhance the knowledge in your field, to understand the various tools. It becomes very helpful because you are not, if you are not so statistically strong, you may be confused to get the appropriate tool for your work. In that case, literature review is very, very helpful. Always like to share my thoughts, my learnings, my failures with all the participants. So once I have done my research work related to the IPO pricing, initial public offerings, I gone through hundreds of papers, but I was not getting the appropriate tool to apply. I'm not a man from statistics. That was to be my biggest limitation. I want to go with the historical review, and whatever the work I was getting means hundreds of papers, they all are talking about the futuristic valuation. long back, this means during my research duration, long back, I have gone through one of the paper. They use a specific tool. That tool, I was just forget about that paper. Again, once I was keep on reading, and once I came to know about that tool, one of my ex-colleague is presently assistant professor in the university. He's an expert in econometrics, and the topic was related to econometrics only. I just discussed, okay, my dear colleague, this is the tool. I am finding it out. It is suitable or not. And after all, that was the only tool available at that time, which was most appropriate to my work. And finally, we adopted, and definitely we got the results what we actually been looking for. So out of only hundreds of paper, only one paper provided me the appropriate tool. And the author used to be one of the popular book. The lady used to write in for derivatives and the share market trading related work. I later on thankfully acknowledge as a courtesy mail to that lady, that publisher, that author for it. So this may be the work. So these ideas you can get only with the help of the reviews. Then reveal the existing gap in your literature, which provides the base for your work. Proceeding to the next step that is the developing of the objectives and the hypothesis. Objectives must be aligned with the research questions. So before that, there must be research questions. Why you want to conduct the research? What are the objectives behind the research? So these research questions provide the base to your title, and objectives provide the base to the your research question. Well, it must be aligned with your research questions. It must align with the title of the paper. Also, must not be interrogative sentence. Never put your objectives into question mark. The research questions will be in the interrogative format, but objectives will not never be in the interrogative sentence formation. It is suggested that writing 2 to 3 objectives is enough. It all depends upon the author's choice. They can have hundreds, no issues. There are the various modes to prepare the statement of the objectives. So you can always start with the word to. Title of the paper never starts with the word to, but objectives always start with the word to. You can use the word like to determine, to investigate, to assess. Some other words like to describe, to explore, to characterize, to identify, define. So by using this to, you can carry over with such type of words while writing your objectives. Then comes upon the hypothesis. With the words of the Criswell, it is the formal statement represents the expected relationship between the independent and dependent variables. So hypothesis try to establish the relationship between the two variables. We are well aware they are of two types: null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. Usually, we used to design the hypothesis in such a manner where we want to reject or not accept the null hypothesis. That means we want to reject the null hypothesis. Usually, but not always. So your hypothesis must align with the objectives. There may be many hypotheses. How many whatsoever hypothesis you adopt must be followed by some statistical testing, and then it will follow with the result. Mostly adopted in primary research, it must formulate a hypothesis, frame the hypothesis in a format which has been testable. So in case if you are unable to adopt or apply any test, don't use it, and test the hypothesis with the most appropriate tools. Methodology comes upon. Methodology provides the complete procedures and the flow, how you have proceeded with your rest of the work, the research design, the research period, the research data, the research method, the tool for data analysis, all comes under the category of the methodology. So this is little bit technical, so you may need to spare more time while developing the methodology. I hope you can see the next slide. Yeah. Defining the methodology, there are the various types of approaches available. Like it may be analytical, descriptive, quantitative, qualitative. then data collection method, sampling procedure, period of study, data collection tool, and data analysis. So these are the some of the approaches we can use in defining the methodology. And here is a brief description about it. So it may be experimental, survey-based, interview-based, observation-based, ethnography, archival research, and secondary data collection. I'm not going much more detailing about it. You can take the screenshot and you can later on go through it. Just please hold on. हाँ जी जी गुड मॉर्निंग हाँ बस आ जाओ मैं वेट कर रहा हूँ जी जी After defining the methodology, again the real contribution comes from your side in the forms of the results and discussions. Results are the findings to your work which you have conducted in your work, and it should be planned and must align with the methodology. Whatever the results you get must be justified by including any type of statistical analysis. It may be in the form of graphical tools, that doesn't matter. If you are good enough, you can use the high-end statistical tools, otherwise it is sufficient enough. The results and discussion should always be written in the past tense. Just please care upon, and to be followed by the discussion. Discussion must include the answers of your research questions which you initially framed before writing the objectives. Then justify your approach. Now, your results and discussion section may vary with the other authors' outcomes, or it may be following the same. Your results may align with the other authors' visions or outcomes, and it may not. That doesn't matter. It all depends upon your perception, what actually and which methodology you have adopted for your results. The discussion section therefore needs to review your finding in the context of the literature and the existing knowledge about the subject. So it is recommended that once you are writing the literature review, at the same time, you please note down the outcome of that paper. Those outcomes will be helpful to be included in the discussion part. So this is how you can align both of the works. It will save your time a lot. And finally, your paper ends with the conclusion. Again, while writing the conclusion, it must include the summary and everything. Not exactly summary, but it must include each and every element of your work. The conclusion may initiate about the introduction, then research question, then objectives, what the points you want to include, methodology, and all of these things. It must outline any implication or the recommendations indicated by the findings. We always use in the end paragraphs. Brief summary of all the main points or facts mentioned in the body. One more thing you should remember is that your conclusion must align with the abstract. It must be aligned with the abstract. Just match it out. Your abstract must not somewhat different as compared to your conclusion. Because whenever the author tries to go through your paper, first of all, the author will read your abstract, then moves to the conclusion, and if the paper is found suitable, then the author goes inside of your work. So everything must be properly, equally aligned. Please spare as much time as is required. There is no hurry to produce many of the paper or write many of the papers in a year. Develop one or two quality paper, get it published in the reputed journals, and that is more than sufficient. Presently, I have restricted myself to not write more than 2 quality papers in a year, not more than 2. That's okay. Because something real outcome must come from it. Refer to the source qualifyinghealth.com. A typical conclusion is of a single paragraph consisting of 5 sentences. So for writing the source of information or how to develop a conclusion, this can be the source. They say that conclusion should be consist of a single paragraph, usually of 130 words. And they further suggest that majority of conclusion sections writes in 1 to 2 paragraph contains of 3 to 8 sentences. That means the word count, average word count is of 201 words. So again, the things varies. The conclusion should be limited by nature. once you are writing your thesis, in that case, you can write the conclusions based upon your objectives and final paragraph for the whole of your work. This can be also the one of the way. So it all depends upon your choice. But in research paper writing, don't write too much regarding the conclusion. A single paragraph is well done. If required, you can have the maximum 2 paragraphs. You can again use citations for the conclusions. This is an example taken from one research paper. This was the sum of the content, and this is the conclusion about it. It is a single paragraph conclusion, and overall word count is 232 words. Sorry, this is the 2 paragraph conclusion, and total word count is 232 words. So this is the way, this is the procedure you should memorize while developing a paper. Just moving ahead, because time is a constraint. And the next element we must focus upon, and that is the plagiarism. Plagiarism is nothing, is simply copying someone else's work without giving a credit and assuming that the person is not knowing anything about it, so we can use in our own work. In this digital world, nothing has been hidden. Whatever you includes of others' work is been plagiarized. It will be checked by the AI in many softwares, and they can identify that you have copied this material from someone else. So there are 2 basic elements to avoid plagiarism. Number 1, you take the prior permission of the author, and secondly, write the contents in your own words. Thirdly, when you go with some of the sources like chart, diagrams, tables, maps, you can't change it out. In that case, please provide the adequate acknowledgement to the source, means the source from where you have adopted these factors. And other than that, when you are in the text writing, it comes under the category of the citations, and the detailing is being done at the end in the form of references. You need to carefully document and record every single source you read and use. Otherwise, you need to change in your own words. Similarly, there is a specific way of mentioning the internet and web address URL for the source or contents you have included. In order, if you want to do it by yourself, there are the many plagiarism sources available free of cost on the websites. So I am just providing you 3-4 websites. First 3, they are free source available, and the Urkund is also been earlier recommended by the UGC, and many universities still follow this website. Even for the plagiarism checker, they used to pay. We need to pay the specific fees, and they can check and provide the plagiarism list to you. Even normally we used to pay a nominal fees of 175 rupees, depends upon the number of words. For thesis writing, they will provide you the complete report. Even if we are unable to access, then we can pay the fees. They will provide the complete report to us, and plagiarized contents, each and everything is easily available with the help of this software. So by using, they have a word limitations. This is the licensed. So by using this such type of softwares, you can check the level of plagiarism. Next part, only a brief about it, that is the citation and referencing. Citation is the in-text source within the work, within the whole of your work. You are providing information about the author. That comes in the form of citation, and the detailed information about that author comes in the form of a referencing. Referencing comes after conclusion, and citation falls inside the work. So there are various sources to provide the citations and the referencing. This is just for a guideline to you. Please go to the appropriate websites to get the complete information. Usually in commerce, management, humanities, the APA is the most recommended. So 1 or 2 examples are in front on your screen. Just like in case of a single author, you start with the word surname as a surname, year of publication, and the same thing can be shown at the end of the work. If you wish, you can also provide the page number along with the citation. It's not necessarily required. I suggest that you don't include the page number unless and until it is very important. So there are the various referencing styles: APA, Chicago, Harvard, MLM, then AI, AEEE. Many type of referencing styles are available. In that case, you need to go through the publisher's information. Whatever they have recommended, you need to develop the citation and referencing style accordingly. Formatting the research paper. There are two ways you can format the research paper. One is the normal conditioning, 1 inch from both sides, or you can have a 1.25 margin for the left side because it goes for the binding in case of thesis writing, and 1 inch for the rest of the three sides. Otherwise, 1 inch is been best to take for all that. You can format with the help of the in the layout section. Here is the margin, and there you can format it. So next is indentation. Indentation can be in two ways. Here again, it can be defined in the form of layout. You can leave some space for each and every paragraph, just like here, or you can directly start from the left align, or maybe left, from the left side of your work. Numbering of pages, it has been recommended you follow the numbering pattern, and normally we use the Arabic. This is simply writing the just like number. This is the Arabic number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Automatic numbering can be generated with the help of the MS Word software. Regarding line spacing, again recommended by the publisher. It may be one spacing, 1.5, 2, it all depends. But usually 1.5 line spacing is sufficient enough. Now, just again, I am repeating my words that everything is well defined when you want to submit your paper in the specific journal. So just have some idea that where you want to get your paper published, go through their guidelines and develop all these things according to that only, so that you can save your time. There are specific formats for the tabulation. I am only using the APA guidelines. So it is followed a specific format with a table number in numeric form, then source. So it includes the table number, title, head note, row, column headings, body of a table, and the source note. Everything has been defined. Similarly, there is a way to specify the graphical presentations. You need to use the word figure 1, 2, 3, just like this is the chart, and source. Even if it is your original source, please mention the word self-generated. It is compulsory, even for your dissertation work. Using active or passive voice, it all depends upon you. So using active passive voice in the research paper writing, as a report, it says that 49% papers contains the grammatical errors. So you can use various grammatical proving tools to overcome such type of things. Okay, these are the few websites where you can go ahead with the Grammarly checker. You end with your work, go with the grammar checkers, and then you can improve, you can make the necessary corrections. I'm not recommending any of the single source. It all depends upon your own perception. You can access, and if you have any licensed software, then it's well and good. There are paid versions also, you can go it. Now we are ready with each and everything. The ultimate objective comes that we want to get our research paper published. So first of all, you need to decide that where we want to get our paper published. There can be the criteria, sub-criteria, division, subdivision. It may be with your specialization area. Suppose I belongs to the management area, so my objective is in the management field, and my subject, this area is in finance. So I will focus upon such type of journals which used to publish the finance paper. Or there are multidisciplinary publications also, which carries all type of papers in their work. So this is what you need to always focus upon, which type of and where you want to get your paper published. And the last steps comes upon that don't get distressed or discouraged even you send your paper for publication and got rejected. It provides a way for our improvement. In this case, if our paper has been rejected due to some reason, please just go through it, rewrite, resubmit. If they reject permanently, then look for some another source and submit your paper somewhere else. So it will help, or it will always helpful to improve ourselves. And to the last part of presentation, that avoid writing the dull paper. Dull paper means don't write too very long article. It may not create interest of the author, readers. Do not indicate any potential implications and biasness. Don't be biased. Write whatever your results comes upon. Don't move, don't talk against your results. That is the wrong thing. Leave out illustrations. Don't omit necessary steps for reasoning. If it is required, please define. If it is not required, please avoid. Use less of abbreviations and technical terms, and if you want to use it, at least first you use the complete word, write the abbreviations, and then you can carry over. Avoid to make any sound too serious and no significant discussions for your work. Don't focus on the only on statistics. You need to justify your work. That is equally important. And please provide the sources of the referencing. So these are the various steps required towards the development of a quality research paper. So thank you very much, all of you, for patientfully listening to me. In case of any queries, I can just I can help you to answer 3 to 4 questions, because presently I have to go. I'm an external in one of the Viva, so I need to move over there. So session is open. You can put your queries. Otherwise, you can send your queries to me this mail.
Excuse me.
बस आ जाओ, 5 मिनट चल रहे हैं, बस हो गया.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm Brojadulal from
Yes.
from Sandeep University, Nasik. So I have a few questions. The first question is that if I'm going to write a review paper, and that I'm doing right now, and if you take the images from the different publications of the same field, so do we have to acknowledge that paper, or I have to take the permission from them? That is my question.
So if you are going to use many of the images, then it is very important that you should take the permission of them.
Mhm.
And if you want to include 1 or 2, then you can give a simply credit just as a source of information. After that, image should be provided. But without providing the credit to the source, please do not use those images, chart graphs in your work.
Okay, of course I will credit that one, but I don't know how to take the permission or not.
You can simply send a mail, because usually we do not have their contact number. So you request that you just provide your brief information about yourself, the purpose of using the data, and send it the test mail. My learning experience is that 90% they refuse to include those. They deny the permission to provide it. But in that case, then we should not use it out if they deny to use those contents. Both of the things are equally important.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you,
your time and answering the question. Bye.
Thank you. So I hope I am very sorry that I need to rush upon. Tomorrow also there is a session. After that, if the sir permits, I may take 5-10 minutes for the questions related to the current session. Saurabh sir, over to you if you are there. So okay, thank you for being patiently listening to me. I hope you can see the email over there, and we may carry with the points tomorrow if any queries exist. I am leaving, sir. Thank you.